potential consequence of this particular CBN failure to remit the 1.44 trillion?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Savior. This is a very sensitive and very important discussion at the level we are currently in this country, because we know that Nigeria has been suffering with issues of revenue generation. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking and rather unfortunate that you begin to hear figures like 3 trillion, like 1-point-something trillion, you know, missing and diverted since 2022 September. And up till now, nothing has been done. Unfortunately, it's not good for the nation. Unfortunately, that's what has been causing the high level of poverty, the high level of lack to raise revenue, to do infrastructure, to build hospitals, and to do things that will be of high importance to the people of Nigeria. It's very unfortunate, and it should be condemned in all its entities should be condemned.
You know, the fact that our Nigerian government, you know, they act as if they don't either feel this whole situation, or they act, will I call it out of negligence? Like they don't know if it's existing or such situation has actually happened, you know. And when you bring it to their notice, they say, oh, we will now look into it. So I was saying that we don't even have a chain of communication, you know, there is no transparency as regards to disbursement of funds. When you implement different solutions, you know, you understand, you should know when you have actually approved something. So something just go unaccounted for and we don't see anything. When a certain group call them to action, you know, of course, thank God that you're coming from Abuja and you have the relationship to an extent with the EFCC. It is when we call the EFCC, go and look into that place. That's when they say, oh, it's like we had something like this before now, and all of that. How did we get to this point? Now, I don't know if you heard, but of course, we were told that this administration disbursed 330 billion naira to the very poor Nigerians. My question, how did this disbursement happen? The very, very poor Nigerians don't even have a bank account. You are in the north. I have lived in the core north. The very, very poor Nigerians don't have a bank account. And when we talk about the poor Nigerians that you sent money to, this is people's voice. And I have been announcing over time, if you know you've actually gotten any alerts from this particular, you know, funds, call the number, share it with me, and I'll be here. That's one thing about the show. So if the government do anything that is, of course, if they actually decide to deem it fit to do what is right for the people, I come here, I tell them that it's actually a laudable feat. I appreciate them on behalf of the people. And if they are not doing what is right, it is in our own right, being a broadcast journalist, to actually call them to order, also to amplify the voice of the people. So in a situation where we are not even giving accounts of money being spent, I think there's something happening to the whole CBN structure. Now, how can the CBN justify the allocation of 629 billion for, they call it, to, of course, unknown beneficiaries, because we don't have the data for us to have a proper track record of unknown beneficiaries under Anchor's Borrowers Program? How would they justify that situation?
Unfortunately, for me, it's unjustifiable. And, you know, there are certain things that, you know, when we do in this nation, and when people hear of it, it's embarrassing. And the reason why I said it's embarrassing is that CBN, they have a responsibility, and their responsibility is to ensure that there is financial stability. In the financial stability, they are the one that will ensure that any money that is going out of the coffers of the government, they can give account for it, accountability. Unfortunately, the CBN has not been doing that over the years. There's no proper accountability. Because how will you say 600 plus billion given out as loans and there's no data? As a matter of fact, I've been hearing about this borrowers program, but I've never heard anybody that has benefited from it. I've never heard of even one single person.
That is coming from you that you are in Abuja.
Yes, I've never.
How much more to those of us in Lagos?
You know, it's unfortunate. I've not heard of just one single person. Even when you go to the market to meet the market women, you know, because some of these borrowers program is supposed to go to people that do small businesses, SMEs. But unfortunately, if you ask them that did you benefit any form of grant from the government, they will say no. I want to be careful. It might be that some people are benefiting from it, but the people that are benefiting from it, unfortunately, we don't know. And anything that is, you know, shielded in secrecy,
or to some certain people and not open to everybody.
And it's not open to, then that means there's something there, because something that is supposed to be open to everybody is the Nigerians' money. It's not a personal money. So if we are talking about the money that belongs to the nation has a right. The citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has a right to know the people that these monies are paid to. And don't forget that CBN, after paying this money, they still need to ensure that this money comes back to government, because the purpose of releasing loan, the purpose of lending out money is to ensure that you grow the economy. Because after giving out money, people are able to use this money to set up businesses. After they set up businesses, they make profit, they are able to employ people, they are able to also pay salaries, so all the load will not be on the government. And they are able to pay taxes. And technically, this still comes back to the economy. So how does it make sense, you know, that you now give out loans and you cannot identify these people up to the extent that you are tagging them unknown? How do you now intend to recover the monies that are given out? You know, it's unfortunate and it does not make sense. And the truth of the matter is, when you hear of some of these things, it boils down to one single thing: corruption. Because the reason why I'm saying corruption is that a system where there is no accountability is because there's corruption. Because that means some people are deliberately holding information, and which I think Serap in this regard did the right thing to the CBN, that they are being given 7 days, you know, ultimatum, to ensure that they give proper accountability on all this money that is tagged, diverted, and missing. And as a matter of fact, I felt Serap should have even taken a step further. They've done well, but they should have taken a step further by petitioning to EFCC as well, because there is no moral justification, there is no legal justification for monies that has been spent since 2022. We're talking about 3 years. This is 2025. Is at this particular point you now want to be making accounting for these monies? Is unfortunate. As a matter of fact, the matter ought to be investigated. And you know, it's so embarrassing and disappointing that government agencies like CBN needs to be written to before they do the right thing. This government came into power in 2023.
Yeah.
We are in 2025. 2 years has already gone. Even the CBN governor has been appointed for over a year now.
Of course.
So, as a matter of fact, immediately you come into government, let's assume it's a nation that things are working properly. The first thing you ought to do is to ensure you audit.
Proper audit.
Proper audit. Then if there are people that, there are areas that you see infraction, what are you supposed to do as CBN governor? You ensure that these people are prosecuted. You are talking about the country's money. So it's not something to joke with. It's not something to delay. So it's rather unfortunate, and it's embarrassing that we found ourselves in this situation.
Barrister, you've actually said so much as regards to your submission. Now, there was a statement you mentioned, which I want to talk about. You said everything boils down to one thing: corruption. We are at a crossroad in Nigeria, in a position where every agency, you know, every commission, by God's grace, we need God's intervention, because we're at a place or a point where we don't even trust any leader. We don't trust anybody leading any agency. The only person I came here, I think yesterday, that I talked about, was it yesterday or on Friday, was Mawa, the NDLEA man. And I had my reasons, because over time, I've seen him do his job. That particular commission, that agency, have been doing their job as regards to going against every drug traffickers and all of that. So for that, I gave them their kudos. But aside from that particular one, we would always have issues with different chairmen of any commission, because they have been appointed by somebody. Is it possible that we have a total separation of power? And not only that, that there are some certain commissions or agency that they allow the people vote them in. The CBN governor, the EFC chairman, the INEC chairman. Because if we're talking about corruption that you just mentioned, I want to quickly give you a 24 hours backstory as regards to what happened yesterday. The judge conference, or what do they call it? You know, your senior colleagues, right? The judges, they did their summit. Yes, their conference. A symposium, or I don't know how many days it would be, yesterday in Abuja. And they had the commander-in-chief, notably represented. He came himself. They had the Senate president, okay, of course, ably represented. The Speaker Abbas, represented by Kalu. And of course, the FCC minister was also there. And after the Chief Justice, my Lord, right, Kekere Ekun, when she was done with her speech, and she said it's time for she to, welcome the president to come give his speech. Barrister Lai, the next thing we heard was, on your mandate we shall stand. The brass band played it. And this is on national TV. This is judges, all judges events in Abuja. What does that mean? It is normal for a president to come and speak. But where in a situation where a brass band, and nobody stopped that particular band from playing that on your mandate, and they played on your mandate until the president got to his podium and he started addressing them. We're talking about corruption here. The same EFCC you mentioned that Serap should have petitioned to, they talked about Yaya Bello. What has happened afterwards? Okowa's matter is still there pending. We've not heard anything. But of course, I would like to ask you, thank God you're a barrister. Thank God it is in your jurisdiction to actually give us the right answer. Can corruption be curbed in Nigeria? And what can be done?
Well, Mr. Savior, the reason why I kept quiet for a while is because the things that are going on in this country is disheartening and rather unfortunate. I would like to take it from the back, talking about the judges' conference issue.
Yeah.
I feel it's totally inappropriate that the song of a party
was played. Not even the national anthem.
In the place of the national anthem.
The national anthem was played after. The national anthem was played after the president was done. When he went back to his seat, then they said, let's write for the national anthem. After the national anthem, the president actually, stepped out.
It's totally inappropriate. The judiciary is an arm of government. There's separation of power. The executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So the judiciary is not subject to the executive. They are independent on their own. So it erodes public trust in the judiciary for the judges in a judges conference, in a judges symposium, to be singing a party song. I feel it's totally inappropriate. And also, talking about corruption, I believe that we have a people's problem. And the reason why I said we have a people's problem is that if you look at what you were saying earlier, that there should be certain positions that the people should, maybe let's say elect, be the one to elect certain people into the office. Sincerely, we don't need it. And should I tell you the reason why I said we don't need it? Right. If it's a system where things work, everybody knows their duty. Even if the president says you should do something contrary to the law or something contrary to the benefit of the people, you should reject it.
But of course, the person cannot reject because the person was not appointed based on merit. He was appointed based
patronage.
On, patronage.
If you go to other climes that practices democracy, it's the executive. Definitely executive has its own administrative functions. There are things the executive must do. Executive must make appointments. And don't forget that all these appointments also passes through the National Assembly. So it's expected that the National Assembly would have verified would have done their due diligence. Even DSS, everybody's name that is submitted for appointment, such as the INEC chairman, they go through security checks. So they would have ensured that these people are men of integrity. But unfortunately in Nigeria, and that's why I'm relating it to other climes, because if we go to other climes, if we go to the US, if we go to the UK, they have people that are appointed to for the purpose of their election. It's not as if the people voted them in, but they do their job. They do their job without looking for favors, without expecting that the president will give them orders, or the prime minister will be the one to give them orders on what to do. They know what to do. And even if the president tells them do otherwise, they will say they are not going to do so, and they will notify the public. But unfortunately in Nigeria, just like we said earlier, we work with patronage, we don't work with merit. And the National Assembly, that is supposed to form as check, because the essence of the National Assembly is to act as a check and balance on the executive. Yes. And that's also the function of judiciary, to ensure that laws are interpreted. When they are disputed, they take it to the judiciary. The judiciary gives ruling, gives judgment on this dispute, and that will be the final position. But unfortunately, me and you know that the current National Assembly is a rubber stamp National Assembly. Everything that goes to the National Assembly gets approval, even before it gets there. The same thing that happened in the emergency rule in Rivers State. Yeah. That even the provision of the law says the president should ensure that National Assembly gives approval before declaring a state of emergency. But he didn't do that. What he did was he declared a state of emergency and sent it to the National Assembly because he was certain that they were going to give approval. So when you are in that kind of nation, you see all manner of things. And that is what also translated into the appointments that you are seeing, because it's as if maybe, I'm not certain, but it's as if they have a different meeting, executive and National Assembly, where they decide on what to do. And what we just see is whatever drama that is being played on the television is rather unfortunate. Now to your question of whether corruption can be curbed. Corruption can be curbed in Nigeria. It's just that we need proper reorientation. You have agencies like National Orientation Agency, but unfortunately, you don't hear anything about them.
Because they also need orientation.
Because they need orientation.
That's the truth.
That's supposed to be part of what they are supposed to be doing, to orientate people. Because let me surprise you, Mr. Savior. The people that are currently looting, we are worried about them. The ex-looters, unfortunately, they brought us to the situation we are today. But should I tell you the one that is more worrisome is the people that are waiting on the queue. The people that are waiting that let me get there so I can empty the coffers. So you will discover that even some people that are criticizing the government, it's because they are not there. You know what is going on. You see people, politicians all over the place criticizing the government. Meanwhile, when they give them appointments.
Meanwhile, they've been in the corridors of power back then. They didn't do anything, different or better.
Should I even surprise you? I don't want to mention names, because if I mention names, you will be able to relate. There are people that they were in the opposition, but when this APC government came into power, they were criticizing when they were in the opposition. But immediately they gave them appointment, they started saying this government is the best in the world. So, you know,
I think I can see
what we need is orientation, proper orientation.
But of course, Barrister, you've said so much, you know, in just a few minutes. And let's come to the National Assembly, okay? I understand that we all understand officially. We didn't say it, so nobody can actually hold us to say we said it. But Adams Oshomole said that the National Assembly, led by Senator Godfrey Akpabio, is running like a rubber stamp National Assembly, where they don't even verify bills anymore. Everything just goes, it just passes. What role should National Assembly play in overseeing the CBN activities and, of course, preventing similar incidents? But don't forget, just like you mentioned that of INEC, you know, and every other appointment, when once they get to the National Assembly, the next thing you hear is take a bow and go. Sometimes, of course, they hear them, they tell them, okay, you can read their CV, but take a bow and go. Even when someone is saying, let's even ask one or two questions, you say, is our person, we know the person, let them go. So, how can National Assembly, you know, oversee CBN's activities just to prevent future incidents?
Okay. First of all, the National Assembly needs, as a matter of urgency, and it's important that we talk about it, The National Assembly needs to probe this current issue of 3 trillion.
1.44 trillion.
They say 1.44 trillion. The entire money is actually 3 trillion. But the one that CBN has audited is 1.44 trillion. Part of the money, about 600 and something billion, was for the anchor borrowers program. Yeah. Those ones were not included in the
that one of immigration vehicles.
Different from the one of, so the entire money is 3 trillion. So, you know, Nigeria, when you hear these kind of figures in a nation that is suffering, when I was coming from Abuja, I would have probably maybe, let's say, let me just enjoy a road trip. I had some people that came from the US that were telling me that, can't we just, you know, see Nigeria, see the beauty of Nigeria.
And you would have returned, you would have replied them, I don't have money for ransom.
That was exactly my answer. That I don't have money for ransom. And that the roads are bad. Imagine coming from Abuja to Lagos. It's supposed to be maybe like a 7 hours drive from Abuja to Lagos. But currently you can use
14 hours.
Because
anything from Abaji to Kogi State is nothing to write about. It's gone.
And probably if you are able to escape the bad road, if you escape that, you might be kidnapped. So in a nation that we don't have roads, we don't have good healthcare system. Before I left Abuja for 3 days, because I live around them, I don't want to say my name, but I lived around Gadua axis. For 3 days, there was no light. I was running on inverter and generator. So in a nation that we are lacking in many things, and you start hearing that 3 trillion is being diverted or missing, it's very unfortunate. It's very evil. So now, the National Assembly, they have a very significant role to play. Ordinarily, they are supposed to, first of all, even before this whole issue, there is a committee on finance in the National Assembly. They are supposed to probe this issue as a matter of urgency. And let's assume that it's a National Assembly that is working. We are not even supposed to be begging the National Assembly to perform their duty. We are not supposed to be having this conversation on TV. Having said that, the duty of the National Assembly is to ensure that they do proper check and balances on the executive. Because you look at majority of the corruption comes from the executive, now flows through the National Assembly and through the judiciary. So if you are able to curb it at the level of the executive, I can tell you that you'll be making significant strides in, you know, erasing corruption. And part of what they have to do is to ensure that people, credible people, men of integrity are appointed into key offices. Like the CBN governor. See what Emefiele did in CBN. Will you tell me that Emefiele did not pass through National Assembly? So, you know, it's really unfortunate. The National Assembly has a very significant role to play in ensuring that Nigeria is devoid of corruption. And they need to stand up and do the right thing.
Nigeria needs to stand up. Of course, National Assembly needs to stand up. But I think all we can do from here is to keep talking and profiling solutions, okay, as regards to the situation that is actually affecting this nation. Hopefully, and by God's grace,